thank you everyone for coming along to this webinar this morning or this afternoon. It feels like this morning for me, I'm afraid, so hopefully it'll all settle down very quickly for me. Basically what I want to do this morning is just to look at some of the support that we actually give through resource matching. I want to talk about what it actually is and how it has an impact on Northern Ireland as a region, but also globally as well. Over the last 12 months, Northern Ireland, as with most countries across the world now, have been hit with a number of major issues to deal with. But particularly in Northern Ireland, the two big ones are Brexit and COVID-19. This time last year, we hadn't even heard of COVID-19. We didn't know what it was. We had no idea that it was going to impact our region just quite as badly as it has. We've also just in the last 12 months managed to get our own working assembly back up on the hill again. And isn't it just as well they got back when they did, to enable to help us to mitigate some of the issues we've been struggling with under COVID-19. When you add into that the whole mix that normally face businesses in terms of productivity, sustainability, how to manage waste, where to get the raw material supplies from, the mix is really quite volatile at the minute, and is creating a situation where it's very easy to become confused and lost and unsure at what steps you can actually take to move forward. Hopefully what I'll demonstrate through this morning's webinar is that there are opportunities for you, that certainly any challenges that exist can be turned on their head and made into very, very positive opportunities for us going forward. Within every business, there are four key resource types, and I hope I'm not sort of teaching you all how to suck eggs, but sometimes it's good just to review these again. The key resources are your material resources. That's your physical resources, your buildings, your equipment, your raw material, that kind of stuff that you have. Then you also have your human resources, your people with their skills and their expertise, sometimes to do very, very specific jobs, other times to do more general activities, but all vitally important to ensure that your business actually can move ahead and do what it needs to do and achieve what it needs to achieve. The third resource that sometimes gets lost a little bit is actually your brand and reputation. And I would argue that if your brand and reputation moves into the negative aspect, it will affect your whole business. And it's really, really important that you seek to maintain that reputation as positively as possible, even during such difficult times as these. The last resource is really the one that creates the crunch that we've struggled with ourselves as businesses over the last 3 to 4 months, is around our finances. If you're not being able to make your products, you're not able to have the money to pay the wages. And this is a really, really vital resource for every business. But if any one of these resources is unavailable or it gets hindered in some way, the whole business is severely affected, and it can be very detrimental to what you're trying to do. And really what I'm trying to say is that when we recognize that and when we review those four aspects of our business, it gives us an opportunity to actually identify the opportunities to overcome problems, to overcome the issues that we're facing, whether it's higher prices from our suppliers, whether it's materials no longer available from a source that we originally relied on. There are opportunities through industrial symbiosis, through resource matching, to help you overcome the problems that you face. So within every business, this is a continual swinging pendulum almost, or a set of scales that we're trying to balance, is between the money we have coming in, the money we have going out, and what we're doing for our planet and for our society and the people around us that we love and care for. All of this is vitally important, and maintaining the balance with them is key for any business going forward. So what is industrial symbiosis? Basically, in our natural world, there is no such thing as waste. All microorganisms, plants and animals work together for each other's benefit. For instance, within the mouth of a crocodile or an alligator, you will see a bird sitting and picking around the crocodile's teeth, which is just an amazing picture to see when you consider how dangerous those animals are. But that bird is actually providing a service to that animal, and is actually helping to keep the animal's mouth clean and healthy so that it can do its job better when it actually does need to chomp down on an animal. So in our natural environment, there is that concept where there is no such thing as waste. Any byproducts that are generated by plants and animals are actually utilized by others. Another example is the hermit crab that moves from one size shell to another size shell. That's a kind of symbiotic relationship where they're making advantage of a discarded shell as a protective cover for themselves. So in that natural world, there is no waste. In our natural and in our business world, there is waste, and because it's generated by us. And what we're encouraging is a movement to an industrial system where your unused or residual resources become available for another company or organization to take and use. And I'll explain some of the very positive impacts of this when this is actually applied a bit later on in the webinar. There are very clear results through doing this. You reduce your operating costs, you can enhance your business opportunities, you can build better relationships with supply chain members, and there's also that added environmental impact available to you when you actually apply industrial symbiosis. The more common term that we're using here in Northern Ireland is actually resource matching. And really, that's come about because we're seeing it as an effective and efficient resource management tool that will help us to achieve economic, environmental and societal benefits. Rachel's already mentioned that over the 13 years that we've been operating here in Northern Ireland, we've actually achieved over 45 million for about 500 businesses in economic value. We have a database of about 2,500 companies, and of those 500 to 600 have actually been actively involved in resource matching and are seeing these benefits coming through for their businesses. It's not just specific to Northern Ireland. This is a global trend that we've seen grow and develop. International Synergies as an organisation is very much focused on helping countries, regions, agencies like Invest in I set up appropriate programmes to help with their economic and environmental impacts through industrial symbiosis programs. So for instance, in some of the countries like Africa, they have one project that's very much focused on the mining industry, and that their whole program is focused on that. Then you've got the program that we have here in Northern Ireland, where we'll work with any business with any kind of resource waste or byproduct and seek to find solutions for them. This is only going to grow and develop as the term and understanding of its value increases. In fact, so much so that the EU itself has written in an amendment to the Waste Framework Directive in 2018 to actually encourage the use of industrial symbiosis, recognising that byproducts of a substance or an object that's being discarded within one company can actually be a primary resource for another company. And that regions should be seeking to apply that within their projects and plans. You're seeing more and more EU funded projects coming online now as well, where you can do a bit of research and actually try your hand at seeing how that actually works for you as a company or organization. And so it's really, really positive. We're on an upward trajectory with industrial symbiosis. It is a strange term, and if you've struggled to say it, resource matching will get our attention, and we'll understand what you're talking about when you're talking about that with us. What I want to do now is move on to the main part, sorry, of our webinar today, and actually talk about some steps that will hopefully enable you to recover from the impact of the last 3 to 4 months of COVID-19 and improve your resilience against any other future pandemics or crises that might occur globally or even just within Northern Ireland. So I'm just going to go through these one at a time, and just remind you that if at any stage in this presentation you have a question, please do put it in the chat through to the team, and Rachel will post those to me when within the time frame we have later on. So the first step really is to review your business model. Um, Within longer established businesses, certainly would have very much what's called a linear economy model, which is really they take resources, they make them into products, and then they dispose of the waste. Over the last 15 to 20 years, we've had this term, not just industrial symbiosis, but circular economy coming into the fore more and more. And really, what it's encouraging is that you make your resource, you have a use for it, and then the raw materials, the materials from within those products can actually then be reprocessed and put back into the system again, rather than being disposed of to landfill or burnt in an incinerator or just discarded in a heap somewhere. So the bottom part of this diagram is really showing the benefits of what happens when we move to that circular economy. Extracting raw virgin materials from our natural earth is very expensive, not just in terms of finances, but in terms of people and equipment, and also just the damage that it's doing. If you think that a seam of oil takes several million years to actually develop within the earth's crust, as we mine that out, there becomes less and less available for future generations. So we need to find ways to do business and to do business profitably that actually means that we're not damaging our Earth's natural resources. And the way we can do that is through this circular economy model, where we have our material processing, we manufacture our products, they go out to use. If there is waste management involved, then even within the waste management system, those resources can then come back into any one of those previous three stages: material processing, manufacturing, or use. All of these are vital. We have case studies on all of these up on our website. I just don't have time this afternoon to go into these in any detail with you, but we'll happily provide that information to anyone on a one-to-one basis if required afterwards. The second step is behavioural changes, and certainly within my own experience working within business and knowledge as well, behavioural change is actually one of the most difficult things to do within a business. Very often, it's influenced by all kinds of things that become difficult to change. And so we have actually seen businesses, as they've wanted to move to applying industrial symbiosis within their business model, actually taking a whole organization or a section approach to applying that behavioral change. And actually doing that in such a way that they communicate really clearly with the company, with the section involved, about what they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it, what time frame they're trying to do it within, what the outcomes are going to be, how that's going to be beneficial for the business as a whole. And when they do that and they provide the training and they incentivize it for the employees and provide regular updates, they actually find that people get on board with it very, very quickly and easily. One very quick example of how this actually worked the other way around, where a behaviour change actually influenced the company, was within a large manufacturing company in Northern Ireland. They discovered that they were having to deal with far more waste batteries than they were actually buying in over a 3-month period. And they discovered that their employees were actually bringing their waste batteries from home into the company and using the company to recycle them. The company had to make a decision. Were they actually going to say no to this, or were they going to encourage the behaviour change? And they chose to encourage it and to pay the financial cost for having those batteries dealt with through their own waste management routes. But that's a very, very practical example of how you can get your employees on board. If you find you've got employees that are very active or very vocal, very often those are the people that you actually need to have on your as a champion for what it is you're trying to do, because they're the ones who can help to communicate it really well through to the rest of the team. The final two steps are monitoring and reviewing and adapting, and it's really easy to forget those. It's very easy to say, okay, we're going to change the behavior within our organization and be more sustainable, but actually maintaining that and monitoring that and reviewing that is going to help you to see where you're making progress and where you need to apply more attention as well. And it might be even just a particular resource stream that you need to apply that attention to, or a particular section of your team that need more training. The third thing you need to be really aware of is your resource inputs and outputs. If I was to go into any business and talk to people in a particular section, say the actual processing section, they will know exactly what the resource inputs and outputs are for that section. But if I was to ask them what the raw materials being bought in by the company are, they wouldn't be able to give me a complete overview of that, or even may not even be able to give me a complete overview of what the wasted resources are within the organization. So someone within your organization needs to almost plot and map what the resources are that are coming into your organization, and what the ones are that are going out by way of waste management, or for recycling and reprocessing as well. And the ones that you see listed on the screen here are really the most common ones that we would have brought to us by companies asking us to help them find an alternative solution for. And there are solutions for almost all of those here in Northern Ireland at the minute. Not all of them. Some of them have to go across to the rest of the UK or Ireland, or even further away. Things like textile waste is generally dealt with outside of Northern Ireland rather than being reprocessed here. Um, but these are the really common ones. Having said that, we have been asked on one occasion to find a solution for waste horse manure. So really nothing is beyond our capabilities of seeking to find you a solution for it. So please do let us know if any of these are particular issues for you. But certainly try and map out where those resources are coming into your organization and where they're actually being generated as waste as well. You also want to review your supply chain. I think really COVID-19 has sharpened this one much more succinctly than even Brexit has. I think because of the uncertainties around Brexit, we've all sort of been aware that our supply chain is going to be affected. But I think the global pandemic has really brought this into very sharp focus and helped us to realise that we need to be aware of our whole supply chain and reviewing it constantly, and really reassessing, you know, the costs, the price we're paying, what our procurement methodologies are that we have, the time that's required to get resources from maybe a place that's the other side of the world in comparison to somewhere more local, the reliability of that supplier, of that resource stream. Contractual requirements are also really important. I know certainly historically it was easy to put in place longer term contracts, maybe for 5 or 10 or 15 years. The difficulty with those is those can really tie you to any of the to particular prices. Whereas if you have shorter term contracts, it allows you to reassess every 2 or 3 years and redecide where you're going to get your suppliers from. It might mean more work for you internally within the organization, but from a cost effective and time management perspective and supply chain management, it might actually be a really good option for you. And Industrial Symbiosis, we would actually have a number of member companies who would come to us as a contract is coming towards an end and ask us if we know we can advise as to who else can actually provide that service. And we will give them those introductions, and they will then, before putting out the next procurement, they will have an idea of the kind of opportunities that are there for them to avail of. The other thing to consider in there is also innovation. 10, 15 years ago, we hadn't heard of anaerobic digestion. It's now very much a part and parcel of the Northern Ireland landscape for dealing with food and organic waste, and is very much an opportunity for us to be engaging with much more clearly and effectively and efficiently. Again, that will also secure our long-term viability and improve our resilience to crisis management. So even just looking at your organisation as a supply chain in terms of your raw materials, who are your suppliers? Where are they? How much are they costing you? Are there other options? Are they innovative? Are they using recycled content in the raw material, in the product, in the the raw materials that you're bringing into your company, or the widgets, or the various elements that you're using to make a particular product. All of that is really, really vital, and it's really, really important to have all of that coming through. The last step is regulatory compliance. I mean, I could do a whole webinar on regulatory compliance just from our perspective as industrial symbiosis providers. But the reality is that regulatory compliance in managing business waste resources is essential. Unfortunately, our Environment Agency has a reputation for its policing, and that as being a negative impression. But I believe that has been changing over the last number of years, that certainly the last 5 years. But the Environment Agency is important because they put in place all the regulations and guidance around how to handle your business resources and your waste resources. There's particular legislation or guidance called the duty of care, which is really like the highway code for businesses. It provides the guidance on what you should and shouldn't do, and how to apply a thing called the waste hierarchy, which I'll talk you through in a couple of minutes' time. In addition to that, the Environment Agency also has developed in the last 5 to 10 years, of the last 5 years in particular, a much more a positive business approach, and they are available to help businesses look at how to improve within their organisation what they're doing to waste. They can put in place a thing called a prosperity agreement, which means that they will work alongside you as you seek to apply innovative new opportunities and measures for your organisation. And we have a number of companies who've actually moved in that direction and found that really, really helpful to ensure that what they're doing not only is working within current legislation, but that they can also help the regulators to understand the needs of business, so that the appropriate changes can be made to regulation and legislation as well. They also put out regular consultations and calls for discussion on any changes to the regulations and legislation that they have. And they also have a thing called the application for end of waste. So if you have a particular resource stream that up to now you've just been discarding of as a waste, you need to apply probably for an end of waste criteria from the Environment Agency, so that that can no longer be considered as waste and can become a valuable byproduct into another organisation. And again, if anyone wants more information on any of those, or wants to know who to speak to within the Environment Agency, I know that within Rachel's energy resource efficiency team, and also within our own team of practitioners, we will all know who the people are to refer you to. So do ask if that's something that you want to know more about.